Currently in cities across America, tenants are banding together and creating what they're calling rent strike, essentially saying we're not paying rent until this pandemic in America is over. And on the other hand, landlords are coming together and writing insensitive and aggressive letters demanding rent on time as if this pandemic is not even happening. Hey, what's up, guys? It's Max here. So when people think about tenants and landlords, they automatically start to think about David and Goliath. Like a negative connotation just pops in your head about paying rent on time, collecting rent, text messages, or even notes left on your door as a tenant. But today I'm gonna be changing that bias. I'm gonna be giving you the truth and the reality about landlords and what they actually do and why they may need that rent more than tenants actually realize. With the current situation across America, nearly 6.1 million people have filed for unemployment, and this number is only going to go up. So this pandemic is real. And with this going on, it's leaving tenants unsure how they're going to be able to pay rent moving forward. And there's rent strikes happening in multiple cities across the country. But with this going on, it's leaving landlords in a sticky situation. But before I talk more about the rent strikes, let me actually give you some statistics on exactly what a landlord is. According to US Census data, there's 138 million doors in America. Now, what I mean by doors is these are properties that are either owned or rented out. These could be single family homes, condos, townhomes, apartments, whatever it is. It's 138 million doors where families live in. Nearly 1/3 of the 138 million are rental properties. And of that 1/3, half, nearly 22.5 million, are owned by mom and pop landlords. Now, before I move on, let me explain to you what a mom and pop landlord is. These are typically people that own between 1 and 4 units. Could be me, you, your aunt, your uncle, your mom, your dad. Somebody you know owns an extra property or two that they rent out to tenants. So here's some more data. Typically, people that are mom and pop that own property acquire these properties in certain ways. Now, let me give you a couple examples. Somebody has a job, a W-2 job, and they've been saving money in their 401k. And they decide to borrow money against their 401k for a down payment for a separate property that they're gonna buy to add to their portfolio. This is property number one. And with that property, they're gonna go to the bank and put down between 20 and 30% and buy a property as a business to try to put a tenant in it to make what they call a spread. Now, typically these spreads in America are about $250. So what that means is when they go to the bank, let's just say they're using a house, they're gonna buy a house that's like $100,000. And they're gonna put down somewhere between $20,000 and $30,000 as a down payment. And then with that, they have a balance of $70,000. Now the bank's gonna give them a loan of $70,000 to go out and buy this house. And with that, they're gonna have a payment, let's just say $500. And out of that $500 mortgage payment, that includes taxes and insurance and everything. And then moving forward, they're gonna put this property on the market and try to get about $750 a month in rent, essentially leading a spread of $250. Now, if you look at the math, you see that yearly, that's not a lot. So one problem with the property, roof needs to be replaced, hot water heater goes out, air conditioner breaks, they're essentially not making any money. It's a long-term play investment. And essentially what these mom and pop people do is they go out and add rental or property to their portfolio so they're not all invested into the stock market. So that when they retire and they pay off this loan in 30 years, they would eventually have an asset that is free and clear. And at that point, that actual asset will obviously increase in rent, but somewhere give them between $700 and $800 a month after it's free and clear of actual spread. That's the ideal American way. Another way is somebody could just simply save that same $20,000 or $30,000, go to the bank with their good credit and buy that property. Obviously, there's other people that inherit property. Those are the lucky ones. It depends how you look at it. If they want to be landlords and they rent that property out. So that's typically what a landlord is. Half of the units, nearly 22 million or so, are owned by mom and pop. You and me, aunt and uncle, mom and dad. Those are the true people. So what happens is when a person doesn't pay rent, the $250, they have to absorb that.
All right, everyone. So I'm going to show you typically how someone purchases a rental property.
Now, if they don't have all cash, this is typically going to be the path that they're going to take to get to the property. So what I did is I switched over to my little handy dandy whiteboard here, and I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about. So for example, if somebody has, draw this little ugly house, excuse my handwriting, $100,000 house, right? So let's just say this person is going to put down between 20 and 30% for this property, equaling, and we'll just take for this example, we're going to take $20,000. So at this is the down payment. And with this down payment, they're going to go get a loan for the remaining gap of that for $80,000. So that's the loan. Now, with this loan that they're going to take out, it's going to cost them, let's just say for proper math, the mortgage, so the PI, TI is going to equal $500. So their monthly payment on this property to the bank is going to be $500. Now, what they're going to do, let's just say they're in a decent rent market and they can rent this same house out for $800. So with that being said, that's going to be rent. So they're going to cash flow the difference between these two properties, essentially. $300 per a month. So that's what they're going to make each month. So let's just say that out of a fully rented property for the 12 months is going to give them $3,600 a year cash flow. Now remember, people are taking money from their W-2 jobs, their savings, their 401ks, whatever that is at the appointment, their IRA accounts, and they're splitting their investments and going into real estate. So this is really a long-term play when you look at this. So $3,600 a year is not going to change anybody's life, essentially, for these people that are working. So with their cash flowing, so what happens is if you miss, right, if you miss one $500 payment or miss the rent, for example, if you do not pay rent for 3 months, they have to come out of pocket $1,500 because they're only going to cash flow $300 a month. Now, what's going to happen on this property is that if anything goes wrong, for example, on one of my properties, there was an unsafe tree in the backyard that we deemed that was unsafe, so we had to cut it down. It was $600 to haul it off, $600 to cut it, $600 to haul it off. So I spent in 1 month $1,200 to keep this property safe, right? So with that $1,200, that ate up essentially divided by 300, that ate up 4 months of cash flow. So as you can see, unless you have multiple properties and you're cash flowing or you own these properties free and clear, the landlord actually needs this money more than you think. Now, they may not need the full $800 to cover the PITI, the mortgage payment, but they will need at least the amount of money to cover their actual mortgage in itself. So this is why I always say, and why I'm saying in this video, that you guys actually need to work together in order to get through this pandemic that we're having. So this is my little breakdown on how most people, how most middle Americas, how your mom and pop landlords owning between 1 and 4 properties actually go out and buy. They use leverage. They use a mortgage and they leverage against it to be able to buy property for a long-term investment. Now, when this investment is all paid off, it can fully cash flow, hopefully more than 800 because it's going to grow in percentile each month with appreciation. and the house will be worth more in 30 years. The rent will be more in 30 years so that they can live off of the cash flow, but also have a huge chunk of equity in the property. So that is exactly how your mom and pop guys are going out and buying property. And obviously you can see from the numbers to the side, they don't really have enough margin to really miss many rent payments. Now I know you're thinking, Max, you're all on the side of the landlord. No, I understand. With 6.1 million people, 6.1 million, and it's gonna be growing. But what I believe is it's gonna be a temporary thing that's gonna go on. Now, yes, there's people that are not gonna get their same exact job back. Some people are not gonna go back to work working at the same place they worked at before. But how I believe and how I look at it is that you guys are in this together. We're all in this together. Now, landlords, I'm not gonna let you off the hook because here's what really happens. You guys have to be sensitive to the situation. And if you let your tenant actually understand how this works, then you may actually have an open line of communication and understanding. Maybe they can't pay the full rent. Maybe they can pay partial of it. So you don't have to pay the whole mortgage yourself. So in reality, we're all in this together. But landlords, do not send wild letters to your tenants. You need to have phone calls. You need to be proactive. You need to be calling. I read a statistic that said nearly 1/3 of all tenants in America did not pay their rent this month of April. And it's probably only going to get worse next month if the government assistance and the bailout does not hit the pockets of everyday hardworking Americans. Now, I know everybody in this is working together or should be working together to get to the other side of this. So the reality is, let's work on this together because the banks actually hold the key to allow us to be able to put rent to the backside or the mortgage to the backside for 3 or 4 months or however long this lasts. A good friend of mine, his dad, Leon, says when you get into the rental business, you're not actually managing property, you're managing people. So instead of sending nasty letters or doing rent strike, you should actually go visit the bank and ask for a forbearance. Ask your mortgage company what options are available for you in these difficult times so that we all can get through this together. Because one thing a landlord does not want to do is kick out a tenant, especially if they've been paying well this whole entire time up until this point. I just believe there's a solution for us together in this. In 2008, the banks were the problem. But I believe right now in 2020, the banks can help everybody get through this situation if we just have an open line of communication. So the next time you think about rent strike, call your landlord, see how you can help. And the next time you think about sending a nasty letter, just pick up the phone and call your tenant and actually find out what's going on. You're managing people and not properties. All right, everyone, thanks for watching. Don't forget to share this video to a tenant or a landlord because this video can help reshape their mind on what it's like to be a landlord or a tenant. This is a valuable video, and I think it will change some people's mind and help us all come together in this situation. Listen, don't forget to subscribe, smash that like button, and turn on alerts so you know when I'm posting new content and you'll get it first. As always, I'll see you on the other side. Thanks.